much made in Taiwan anymore. That's interesting.
No, they're not. All right. Also, drones were used in the 50s as decoys.
Yeah, and didn't they crash on Roswell?
No, that was a weather balloon.
No, that was an alien spacecraft, actually. Never mind.
No, I don't think it was.
It was. I heard the guy
He
whose
swore
job it was to lie to the American people.
He swore it was.
He came out and admitted it now that he's
finally
almost 100 years old and kind of senile. But, I mean, hey, look, it's fine. There's aliens out there.
The decoys were used by bombers, and they would launch them, apparently, when they do a mission to try to confuse the radar people and the fighters and all that stuff.
A lot of different uses for unmanned aerial vehicles.
We're getting there. It's going to take a while.
Getting where?
Towards the modern drone. Nuclear tests.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
1946.
Okay. I guess we're getting there, folks.
They turned B-17 flying fortresses into drones so that they could fly through nuclear bomb explosions to collect data. All right? Combat. It was during the Vietnam War that drones were used as combat unmanned vehicles. 80s and 90s and up to today that the modern drones are being developed and used for a variety of operations, including radio transmission, receiving, photography in real time. Now they can actually send up video cameras.
They can over things like a consulate in Benghazi in Libya.
Or your orgy that you're having in your backyard.
And that's the issue that we're going to talk about.
Right. And they also started arming them with missiles so that they could fly over and launch them.
Which we can also talk about because
we had the Predator.
That's happened a lot lately.
RQ-1L, and then the MQ-1 Predator is used primarily by the Air Force and the CIA. It was conceived in the 1990s for reconnaissance, but it quickly moved on to firing Hellfire missiles. And drones have been used since 1995 in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bosnia, Serbia, Iraq, Yemen, Libya, and Somalia. We've developed lots of drones now. We're doing the very tiny ones. And I've seen, when I did research for the show, little ones at the size of dragonflies.
Yeah.
A lot of them are man portable, as we've seen.
And I've noticed over the last summer, and even now in the middle of winter, an increase in dragonflies. I'm like, it's 15 degrees out here. Why is this
What the hell are these dragonflies doing out there?
Why is it in my bedroom? I don't understand.
And why is it blinking with a red light? I don't understand that. That's not right. But anyways, man portable ones, obviously a guy can carry it in the field, put a camera on it, launch it.
Yep.
Get real-time data of where the enemies might be.
Enemy.
They're also trying to design, drones that'll stay up for a long time. 10, 15 hours, maybe days, even months at a time.
Yeah.
And they're working with like solar energy to fly them and stuff. They're used in science and other areas. And there are some civilian uses.
Yeah, I mean, things like border enforcement,
right.
Local police, scientific studies, things like that.
Right. They can collect scientific data. They're
Yep.
trying to fly in the atmosphere.
Yeah, the Border Patrol, they're planning on having about 24 Predator drones by the next few years. 2016, I think was the date. Yeah, and I mean,
they want to be able
that's
to
not a bad thing.
Deploy what? I don't know about that. I disagree with that.
No,
Anyways, they want to be able to deploy them anywhere in the country within 3 hours.
Yeah,
Man.
Yeah. And it's a little scary, but mostly UAVs are associated, at least in our thinking, with military.
But that's changing.
And things like that. That is changing a bit. Like we said, border patrols. We have the EPA using them to spy on farms,
Department of
scout
Agriculture
property. Follow fugitives, people running away. The Shadowhawk UAV was one of the first authorized for domestic use in Montgomery County, Texas, used by their SWAT team there. To handle things, emergencies and fugitives, and probably to get some better surveillance on barricaded suspects and things, or get the layout of land and things like that.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing, because all bad things start with good intentions.
And that's what's scary. Agriculture, I wanted to give a use that I've heard in the UK they're using them, and I don't know if they're using them in the US. But as you and I know, that sometimes they pay farmers not to plant crops. They have a conservation reserve thing. They want to save the soils and all that.
Yeah.
And they get paid a fee for not planting.
And we do that with corn.
We can do a show on that. But some of these farmers, darn them, they're actually planting that land, so they're double dipping.
Double dipping, yeah.
All right. And so these drones are flying over and looking in real time what fields are being used for agriculture and which ones are fallow, and they're being able to find violations of this. So that's one of the uses.
And these drones used for surveillance can get pretty high tech. I mean, some of them with facial recognition systems on them, license plate scanners, thermal imaging, Wi-Fi sniffers, which is a little scary to me. I mean, I do it from my car, but I don't think I want somebody doing it, from above my house. Definitely not the government.
Right.
And a lot of other sensors and things like that.
Who knows? I mean, it's unknown what they'll be able to do in the air with sensors.
And who knows what they're doing, and it's not easily detectable by the common man. I mean, I couldn't go outside and point to the drones that are likely flying around the studio we're broadcasting
especially
from.
this place right
that's
now.
my point.
Yeah.
Like I said,
what was that? Wait,
a
dragonfly.
That's my point. There's
a dragonfly in here.
High number of dragonflies in the area of
I don't
Michigan
understand.
for this time of year, but I didn't know they had so many in United Arab Emirates.
So that brings up some questions.
Well, in 2012, in January, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, they filed a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, against the FAA.
Okay.
And for the first time, the FAA released a list of names of all public and private entities that have applied for authorizations to fly drones here in the U.S.
Ain't that sweet?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And like we said before, Customs and Border Protection had some, the FBI, Department of Defense, NOAA, which are they using it for weather?
Hopefully they're doing it for
NOAA
science.
Doing?
But
I don't know.
NOAA is a military branch of the government. Did you know that?
Yeah, well, everything's militarized now in the government, isn't it? But yeah, I did know that.
Yeah.
So I don't know
and God knows what private industries are doing with them. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
They're not under FOIA.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
the FAA released the requests for authorization to fly drones.
Right.
From private
but
entities,
if you wanted,
but we don't know what they're doing with them.
Yeah, if you wanted to FOIA that private industry, what they're doing with, they don't have to do that. It's only for
exactly right.
Governmental and public agencies. So who knows?
Local law enforcement, and that's kind of weird to me, because I mean, maybe in bigger cities like Detroit and Chicago and New York and things like that, it would make sense, but I don't necessarily want anybody, in the Lansing area. What are you going to use a drone for?
Well, we're thinking like airplane type drones, but they have them like in helicopter style.
Yeah, very
hovercraft.
Small. Sure,
and so they can put a camera and hover around and very quiet.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah. And
wait a minute, what was that, Nate? I saw something out the window. I don't know.
Jeez. Close the shades, although, and get the fly swatter, please.
Yeah. Damn dragonflies everywhere.
I'm getting more and more uncomfortable as we get farther.
But I mean, that's part of the thing, Where does it stop? Where does your privacy? And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I heard in December 2011, Border Patrol did something kind of nasty there.
Yeah, it was found out that they were using their drones to assist local law enforcement in North Dakota without any approval from the FAA or really anybody else.
Yeah.
And when we say any approval,
We
we
do what
mean
we want.
nothing that they admitted to. Yeah, right. Yeah, and I'm sure they were in North Dakota, so it was heavily
I'm
due
sure
to
it was
the
because,
border crossing.
yeah, that we got the communist horde coming across the border there.
Actually, we might.
We might, yeah, actually from Canada, but that's another issue.
But right now, there's not too many protections, privacy protections.
Yeah, what do we have?
At least at a federal level against UAVs.
Any court cases or anything?
Well, yeah, Katz versus the United States. The U.S. Supreme Court declared that individuals have no expectation of privacy
Nice.
in public places. Which, I mean,
Yeah, but
to a point,
my house is not really a public place.
Yeah.
So if they're going to spy on me walking downtown, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Sunbathing in my backyard.
Florida versus Riley came up.
Okay.
The Supreme Court said that on their own property, you don't have a right to privacy from police observation from public airspace.
Ooh, that's
so that
bad.
court case set precedents, which
wow.
Someday we do need to talk about precedents and how this country didn't really used to work on precedents. It used to work on the Constitution
and certain rights
rights. But now everything is precedents. What did the court say? What did that judge
say? So what you're saying? Let me get this right. This Florida versus Riley says that if I'm in my backyard sunbathing, and you have a little helicopter dragonfly can fly right over me.
Yeah.
And watch everything I do.
Yeah, as long as they're in public airspace.
They could have listening devices and listen to my conversations.
According to this, you have no right to privacy from public airspace.
That's
and
ridiculous.
we had Google. The day I saw Google Maps and Google Earth, that they had the satellite images. I was not. Very cool technology, but
and I've heard of government agencies using those to find violations for certain things.
Yeah, there's
ordinances and junk cars and other things.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, it's
kind
of
scary. That's Big Brother.
The ACLU, we know that they're big. What are they? Big proponents of freedom,
except for
if you
Second Amendment
fit their criteria.
Yeah.
But they've asked for some regulations to be implemented on this.
They want to kind of put some guidelines on what they can do and what they can't do as far as drones on U.S. citizens, right?
Yeah, just this year,
And
February this year, Electronic Privacy Information Center and 100 other organizations and experts and members of the public, they petitioned the FAA to request a public rulemaking on the privacy impact of drones in U.S. airspace.
That's good.
Yeah, and it's a step in the right direction. It's something I like to see the ACLU actually fighting for. In June of this year, Rand Paul and Austin Scott.
Libertarian kind of guy.
Rand Paul, yes.
Yeah.
And Scott. I'm not really familiar with Austin Scott, but
no.
They both introduced legislation that would require the police, law enforcement, to obtain a warrant before they use a drone to conduct surveillance on criminal activities and things of like that.
Probably went nowhere.
Yeah.
But at least we got people thinking about it.
Yeah.
As far as our rights.
Yeah, and the Electronic Privacy Information Center, the ones that petition the FAA, they have came out and said that this stuff really needs to be transparent. Yeah. The FAA people need to know, what the regulations are for drones and where drones are being in public airspace, when they can use them,
when they can't use them.
Yeah, and how they're being used, when they are being used.
Yeah.
Some scholars argue that the domestic use of drones will benefit privacy by encouraging society to demand privacy rights, which by privacy rights, I think they mean regulation concerning privacy, which is always a sticky issue there. When you start regulating things,
you got to start somewhere.
You do have to start somewhere. And what do we have to protect us from the government using drones?
Nothing right now.
Very little. Yeah, very little.
That is very frightening. I mean, that is definitely 1984 Big Brother technology being used to spy on us.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you can get small civilian models of these things for around $500.
Oh, that's cheap.
For
So-
a little helicopter
So,
type.
so a local